Off season just a couple days old. Steve Phillips hard at work to identify needs. He joins us this morning on Hot Stove. Steve, good morning to you. We heard Perry Manassian say a couple days ago, he said, look, we're not trading Shohei Ohtani. And you know the saying, nothing changes if nothing changes. I guess we wonder, what's the path forward for the Angels, their path to win? Good morning.
Good morning. By the way, it's so hard to follow John Morosi. I can barely speak English, and he's he's got like 14 languages, and I'm like I can hardly get anything out. And talking about Ohtani, a Japanese player to start with, he would be rattling off everything in Japanese. But look, I think that Perry Manassian has said we're not going to sign him. We expect him to be with us until opening day, and I think that the reality is that the greatest right we have is the right to change our mind. And so I understand maybe today that's the position that they're in, but we've seen so many times teams make statements on players and then change their mind. There's possibly an ownership change there. I get maybe the value of the franchise, but I don't know how they can't trade Shohei Ohtani. I don't see how they're going to make it work moving forward. Anthony Rendon, Mike Trout, and Ohtani together in the same roster, they haven't won with those together. I think they have to trade them and really cash in. It's their best chance to win is to not keep Ohtani, but to trade him. They have multiple needs. They have to impact the rotation. They have to impact the rest of the roster. I look at it and think they can't afford not to trade Ohtani. And so it'll be interesting to see if something changes between now and then. And I will tell you that all of the general managers heard what Perry Manassian said, that they expect to keep him, but they're all going to keep calling and make sure that they're lined up, that if his mind does change, he has a good idea about what they would offer and maybe even try to push him off of, that locked place to maybe start to move forward to consider a trade.
If you do trade Ohtani, do you stop there? That's the question, I guess. We've let our minds wander, Steve, about a package back for Shohei Ohtani. What about a number for Jacob deGrom after he officially opted out?
So I think Jacob deGrom's going to look for the Max Scherzer type deal, try to go beyond Scherzer's $43+ million a year and get at least 4 years. Now, I think that's going to be the real challenge is will he find somebody willing to give him the 4th year? He's had a history of some elbow and some shoulder issues. And so the question is, what's his health going to be? And can he live and survive over the next 4 years of a deal? I think the Mets would easily go to 3 years on the deal. They'd match the highest amount of money. I think it's going to come down to how many years is he going to get. And look, there are reports that Atlanta is going to be in. Texas is willing to spend a ton of money to bring in pitching. There is thoughts that deGrom wants to stay to a spring training site in Florida where he lives, which would discount Texas a little bit. But I'll see the Dodgers and the Giants and other teams getting in, as he's one of the most pursued pitchers in free agency this offseason.
I'm listening to you, Steve, and thinking maybe it's because we live in New York that these rumors take life, right? The deGrom, could he go to the Yankees, or could Steve Cohen be all in on Aaron Judge? When you hear that, what's your reaction? What's your answer to both of them?
Well, when I was Mets general manager, there seemed to be a gentleman's agreement between the Mets and Yankees that they would not step on each other's toes with their own free agents, that they wouldn't get into a competition. I don't know that Steve Cohen follows those rules. And so I look at this, and we could have World War III in New York. If the Mets jump in on Aaron Judge and find a way to steal him away from the Yankees, Jacob deGrom will be a Yankee. I think this will be a, you do this, I do that. I think that it could be so interesting. We see the two-team cities tend not to compete for the same players. But I just look at Steve Cohen, who's outspending the Steinbrenners in the Yankee organization, as this is a new game right now. And there's a new sheriff in town, and I don't know that the rules are the same. And so I just think that there's a chance for a showdown between the Mets and the Yankees that could stir this thing up in a way that we've never seen before. And I got to tell you, I kind of want it to happen.
Me too, as a fan, right? As a spectator. I wonder how early in the offseason we'll get answers to both of those. Man, do we have major names in play this offseason. We've been talking all show long about Trey Turner, and he's hardly the only star shortstop on the market. How do you begin to make sense of all these names?
So I look at this and think, where the money's going to go is certainly going to be interesting and part of what would cause me whether to pursue the player or not. I think the two highest paid shortstops are going to be Turner and Carlos Correa, followed by Xander Bogaerts, followed by Dansby Swanson. Yet I think the question is, how will general managers look at them based upon value? And I personally would make Trey Turner my priority pursuit. I think he's going to age well. People say, well, the speed players don't always age well, but the rule changes are changing that. The base is now, he's going to be leading off first base 4.5 inches closer to second. He's going to be a stolen base threat deeper into his career. And range is a real factor now, taking away the shift, and Turner certainly has that. I look at Dansby Swanson as being the second best value in all of this. I have some concerns long-term about Correa's back and where that money's going to go for his contract. He's a great player. There's no question about that. He's defense carrying the way. And Xander Bogaerts, for me, I love him, but I think he's probably going to end up moving off as shortstop at some point during this contract and going to third. Swanson, for me, he's not the best in any one category, but he's really good in all of them. And I think when you look at the value of the contract, I think he's going to be a real fit for a lot of different teams who don't want to pay the premium price, but they're going to get a solid defender that makes every play. He's a clutch hitter. He can hit for average, he can hit for power, and he can drive in runs. And so I think he's a really interesting guy among the four. He may have the most cheapest contract, but he might be the most valuable of the entire group.
Isn't the question also timing? Don't you want to get out in front and make the first deal? I'm just thinking about Corey Seager last year, got so much money.
Right. I think the question is for all of these players, do you want to be the guy that sets the market? So, because if you do, and then somebody signs for more than you did, then your agent's kind of thinking, oh, geez, maybe I should have waited a little bit longer. So it may be a waiting game. But what we have seen in the past is Alex Anthopoulos has tried to pop guys early. They haven't gotten a Swanson deal done yet. And the question is, if they don't get Dansby Swanson, where do they go in Atlanta? So it may be that we see the bottom of the market move first with Alex Anthopoulos trying to get a Swanson deal done before everything else settles out.
Stars for days. What an interesting offseason it will be. Steve Phillips with the very latest. Thanks so much for the time.